2000 series. So the game began with e4, e6, knight f3, d5, e5, c5, b4. So this transposed into the knight variation wing gambit, which is a very dangerous opening for to play against as black. So after I took on b4, a3 takes, after bishop takes, this is all theory, after bishop e7, now knight d4, knight c6. You'll see how I got into some trouble very early on in the game. So he took on e7, I took back, knight a3, to go knight b4, and knight d6. This was a very nice idea. I completely forgot the theory. I'm on queen b6 here. After knight b4, knight f5, I thought I was defending against knight d6, but I completely forgot about the move g4. And now I have to move my knight back to e7. After knight d6 check, king f8, white's already slightly better. But after h4, f6, my idea was to capitalize on this like skewer. But after bishop b5, a6, he played a nice move castling here. Because of the pin, I cannot take. But after I took on e5, weakening my king. After bishop takes c6, knight takes e6, d takes e5. I played knight takes e5 to try to win the knight, but after knight takes back, queen takes, queen f3 check, king e8. If he went queen f7 check, king d8, queen takes g7, he would be completely winning. But instead he went knight f7, missing critical move queen to f8, pinning the knight to the queen. So now the only way to save the queen or knight is to go knight e5. After queen takes f3, knight takes f3, rook f8. Now I'm up two pawns in an endgame, so this should be winning for black. But after knight g5, h6, knight h3, rook king e7, my idea was to bring my bishop and rook out. After rook to e8, rook to f3, he went king to g2, rook to c3, pressuring the pawn. So after knight to f4, I went king to d6. And knowing his idea, if I take on c2, he can play knight takes d5, and there's a pin. So instead, I just played king d6, which stops all of that. And then after g5, I took on g5 and then took on c2. So right now I'm up 3 pawns in an endgame, but after knight h5, rook c5, the idea is if you take on g7, I go rook g4 check and pick up this pawn. So instead he went king g3 and I went e5, which threatens rook g4 check again. So he went f3 and I rook c7 to protect this pawn. So then after rook 81, I went bishop to e6 to protect it, and he had f4. So the idea is if I go e4, he can just take rook takes e4 because of the pin. But instead I took on f4, and I completely missed the move, but he didn't play it in the game. So he went rook takes d5 with the idea to gain a pawn, but instead he could have gained an actual exchange if he just played knight takes. And now if I take, I lose my rook, and black's going to try to fight for a draw. But if I don't take anything, I'll lose my rook on c7. So that was a nice move, but he missed it in the game and played rook takes d5. After bishop takes d5, rook takes e8, b5 is actually equal here, and I missed this in the game because rook d8 check, rook d7 takes, knight takes. So now it's a drawn position, but it's really hard for white to draw this. King c6, knight c3, king c5, king c4, knight e4, b5, b4, and then after king e3, a5, a5, king d2, king b3, knight c5 check, king b2, knight e6. I think he had the wrong idea going for my pawn, but instead he should have probably came back with the knight to help defend against these two pawns that were very strong. Instead he took the pawn and just allowed me to queen. And then after queen c1 check, queen d3, queen c3 check, king e4. After queen c8, knight e7, queen e6 check, queen f6 check, knight f5, queen f7, stopping promotion. Now it's very hard for him to do anything, and I found this nice idea that if he moves back here, check, and this pawn is very hard to stop. You can't stop it, and instead in the game he just blundered the queen. So I think the mistakes to take out of this is to look at what your opponent's doing for both sides. We both made some mistakes that could have been easily stopped. Anyways, thank you for watching.